It'll make a huge difference in the short term because the Ukrainians have been absolutely desperate. They have been running out of ammunition. We have heard reports of them being outgunned up to 10 to 1 on parts of the front line by the Russians.
Now, we want to spend a few minutes talking about Ukraine, which will soon be receiving the first supplies of a fresh wave of Western military aid. Officials at the Pentagon say they'll rush Patriot air defence missiles and artillery ammunition to Ukraine following the approval of $60 billion of US aid. The UK has also announced a £500 million package. Let's speak to Cormac Smith, former special advisor to Ukraine's foreign minister. Cormac, good morning.
Callum, good morning to you, sir.
It's great to speak to you. Does this feel like a turning point? We've had a week of announcements on defence and on aid packages and on military provisions for Ukraine. Will this make the difference that's been so longed for?
It'll make a huge difference in the short term because the Ukrainians have been absolutely desperate. They have been running out of ammunition. We have heard reports of them being outgunned up to 10 to 1 on parts of the front line by the Russians. It will be a turning point if it is sustained. These aid packages alone will not finish the job. We need to see this sort of commitment continued on. But it is very, very significant.
In terms of Rishi Sunak's week that has just been, I'm struck by the fact that on defence spending and on NATO contributions and such, he made these commitments on a trip to Poland and Germany. Now, Poland clearly is on the front line of the Ukraine war, as it were. And then the other thing is this boost for British military spending surely elevates Sunak's position when it comes to engaging with other European countries to try to get them to spend more themselves. Now, I realise this is a conversation kind of largely umbrellaed by contributions to NATO, but surely all of this feeds into the level of support that Ukraine should hope to receive.
Yeah, I mean, look, what comes to mind is what a very good Ukrainian friend of mine, a senior diplomat, said to me very near the start of this horrible war. He said, Cormac, it's not just what the UK gives us, it's what they do behind the scenes to marshal other leaders to also support us that they see as so significant. Excuse me, Cal. That they see as so significant. And I think that what we've seen this week, and in particular, the Prime Minister trying to bring influence to bear on Olaf Scholz, who is still holding off on providing the Taurus long-range missiles that the Ukrainians so badly want.
Yeah.
He has not been successful, nor has anybody else in in that so far. But can I give you I spoke to three very senior Ukrainian diplomats yesterday before coming on here, just to gauge their reaction to it. We're unanimously hugely grateful and also very clear of how significant it was. But one, Alexander Sherba, he's a very senior diplomat back in Kyiv, and what he said to me, the UK proved and to be one of the most decent, compassionate inhabitants on this planet. Now, I think that sort of sentiment, which I hear all the time from my Ukrainian friends, and I'm talking about politicians, diplomats, senior soldiers who I speak to, there is a huge amount of gratitude from the Ukrainians themselves to the support that the UK is consistently giving them.
How does that then, Cormac, how does that translate into relations with the US, which did agree, finally, this $61 billion package for Ukraine, but not after so much wrangling that it took in Congress and to actually get this thing over the finish line? And I just wonder how that's perceived by those that you speak to in Ukraine.
Well, again, I go back. I did an interview on another channel 2 weeks ago now, following the Foreign Secretary, Lord Cameron's visit to the United States, where very, very clearly he went out on a limb. He even met with former President Trump. He tried to meet with the House Speaker, Michael Johnson, and he also had a meeting with their Secretary of State. And again, that was clearly an effort to try and unlock the logjam in in the House of Representatives, which has finally been done. So again, the evidence we have is we can't underestimate the influence which Britain continues to exert on the world stage. And this is not me as a Irishman, but very, very proud, of the contribution that Britain has made, and I've played my own small part in it. That's not just me. This is what the Ukrainians have been telling me for 2 years, because I now, from my time out there, have made very, very close friends for life. And before I come on and speak to people like yourself, I will generally try and speak to one or two of them just to gauge the mood in Kyiv and the different embassies around the world.
Yeah. Just another final thought from you then, Cormac. And I was kind of scrolling through some of your tweets and commentary in preparation for speaking to you today, and it struck me that one person you spoke to said the era of peace in Europe is over. Do you feel like this week represents a recognition of that?
I hope it does. And that was a quote from Dmytro Kuleba, who I worked with when I was out there between 2016 and 2018, and a man I have huge regard for, but he's now the foreign minister. And, the point that if you look at some of my tweets, the point that I've been making since I really got to know these people is we need to give the Ukrainians more respect. We need to listen to the Ukrainians, the people from the Baltic states, Poland, Finland, and Sweden. These people know what Russia is about, and I think for far too long we have disregarded what they were telling us. Indeed, I do believe that the period of peace in Europe is over. And further to that, despite the fact the US has come in with this aid package, I still think that we face very uncertain waters, and Europe needs to put its industries on a war footing, which it is beginning to do, because we need to learn to stand on our own 2 feet, because the US may or may not be a reliable security partner in the future. There are still too many unknowns.
Cormac, it's really helpful to speak to you. Thank you very much. Thanks for your insight. Great to have you on the programme. That's Cormac Smith, who is a former special advisor to Ukraine's foreign minister.